It's not an apology video. I wanted to do a little video while I'm just talking to the camera, talking to you, my audience, people who might watch my films and maybe enjoy them, maybe hate them. That's art, man. It's all subjective. But I wanted to talk about creativity in general. If you've got an idea, if you want to make a film, if you want to make a song, or if you want to draw something and share it, you should just do it. You shouldn't be waiting for someone to come to you with a budget or say this is worth this much, or it shouldn't be for like a financial gain. If that comes, then that's just a little cherry on top. But we should all be creating things and making things because we want to, and we want to express ourselves in a certain way, or we want to tell a certain story, or maybe it's just a way of dealing with positive or negative emotions that you might be having at that time, and you're putting them into something. When I started doing this channel, the idea, the concept obviously was to do a short horror film every month. I had an idea of who the audience was, horror enthusiasts, and how I wanted to appeal to them. And a lot of it was emulating things that I'd seen in some of my favourite horror films. Like, I love stuff by Ari Aster. I was really into Hereditary when I started the channel, and I think a lot of that sort of stylistic approach and the slow burn you can see in some of my earlier films. And I don't think that's a bad place to start. Just finding something you like and trying to copy it, basically. Trying to nab its ideas and do the same thing in your own little way. But as that process went on of making a film every month, it didn't seem like a very big undertaking, especially on like not using any budget or anything. It was all done as cheaply as possible and for fun, ultimately. It sort of snowballed and became, every film had to be bigger, every film had to like do something new, or in my head I was thinking it's got to be, the numbers have got to be better, I've got to get more people watching, otherwise what's the point? And I think a lot of people can get stuck in that cycle where they're making stuff solely for the numbers. If it hasn't got a certain amount of likes or a certain amount of shares or views or watch time or whatever, you end up looking at it and going, oh, that's a failure. When really it's not a failure, because you've gone and you've done it and you've put it out. You've finished something and it's there. And I think there's a certain art in finishing things. For a long time before doing the channel at all, I'd have these ideas and I'd like start them and never finish them, because it never got to that point where I was happy with it. Because my idea of something being finished was, it had to be up to the standard of those films that I love, like a proper Hollywood standard, and it's never gonna get to that point because it's just me and occasionally a few other people working or helping out on the things. I took a little break away and I came back and I've been uploading stuff again, and I think there's been some people that have been enjoying it, which is great, because I've sort of stepped away from making these sort of horror films that were very stylized in a certain way, very trying to go for that cinematic look and everything. I've really tried to, this sounds so poncy, I'm not trying to be poncy, but I've tried to like develop something that is a little bit different, or I feel like is a little bit different, and really try to express things that I've been feeling, or things that have happened to me. I've tried to rationalize them through making little stories. And I think especially recently, it's not always been horror, it's not always been comedy, it's somewhere in between, where it's this weird sort of like surreal, dreamy world that I've set these films in. But I feel like a lot of people, and this isn't me like having a go at anyone, because I think, if you're able to go out and make things I don't think anyone can turn around and go, "Oh, that's bad." You know, I think everything art is subjective, and you can't say one thing's good and one thing's bad, no matter what it is. I think it's just some people have a certain taste, some people have another taste, and that's just the way it is. And I think if you can go out and you can make things and you put it up somewhere for people to see, that's a success. You've succeeded. You've done what 99% of people don't do, because they're waiting for someone to give them the thumbs up. And they're waiting for someone to go, yeah, go and make this thing because we all believe in it too. I think the hardest thing is to believe in your own idea, no matter how weird or stupid it might feel, and then go through and make it. I know, like, my process, I'll start making something, and then halfway through I'll be like, oh, why am I doing this? This is bad. This is just awful. And I think a lot of creatives have the same sort of workflow of, like, they start working on something, and the more they do on it, it's like a roller coaster ride of, oh, this is bad, it's not working at all. And then you hit a point and you're like, oh no, it's sort of working. And then you do it more and it's working a bit more. And I think, I don't know, you've got to have that confidence in yourself to just be able to do it and see it through to the end. And, you know, as long as it's true to yourself and you've done what you think is the best you can do, or you've delivered that message that you sort of want to deliver, then you don't owe it to anyone else. You don't owe it to someone to make a certain thing. I see a lot of people, this is what I was trying to get at a minute ago, I just got sidetracked by something else. My thoughts are just running everywhere because I'm not used to doing this sort of thing. But, like, I see a lot of people, they'll get bogged down in this numbers game. And I think, I know I did at the time, when I started, it was all about, like, oh, this film hasn't done as well as that one, oh, people are losing interest, sort of thing. And at that point, you're making things for other people, and that's not our job. That's the job of, like, Hollywood. You know, they've got their demographics, and they're going, oh, we've got to sell this to these people. But if you're doing things for yourself, and you're doing things that you are interested in creatively, then you don't owe it to anyone else. You don't owe someone else a certain thing. You don't owe them a film. You know, you owe yourself a film. You owe yourself to express yourself and share how you feel. And I think a lot of people, they get bogged down in this numbers game, and they start to feel disappointed and depleted. And then you see their work starts to change. At that point, you might as well be working for someone else. You might as well be part of, like, the Hollywood gang. And this is another thing where people, they'll feel like sort of failures if they're not part of, like, that Hollywood gang. They're not in an industry, or they're not like being given the thumbs up by, you know, your BBCs or your MGMs or Amazons or whatever. 3 random companies I'm just slagging off, not slagging off, just like examples. But they'll feel like their stuff isn't worth anything because it's not there. And I think the other thing that's a big problem is this mentality of film festivals and, like, competition. I'm a big fan of Joel Haver, his films that he does, and just his sort of mentality on filmmaking. It's very refreshing, and just, it's not financial gain based. it's more about expressing yourself. And I think that's something that I've definitely learned in the last year or so, when trying to make things a bit different. And I've been experimenting with a different sort of style where it's more archaic and weird, and that dreamy thing that I sort of mentioned earlier. But these people, a lot of people will still get bogged down with this idea of, it's not a success if I'm not at, like, a film festival and stuff like this. And you see a lot of these film festivals popping up now. Like, don't get me wrong, I've taken part in some film festivals, but I usually try and stick to ones that are either incredibly local, just try to, like, you know, network in the local area, meet people with, like, similar attitudes and ideas, or ones where it's like a little challenge of, like, you've got to make something in 48 hours or 72 hours. I think that's just a lot of fun, and it just breeds creativity, and you can make some really cool stuff from like nothing. Like you start the weekend with nothing, and at the end of it, you got a little film, and it's really cool. And I think they're great ideas, and I always will want to take part in those, no matter how big or small they are. But then there's this other like breed of film festival where it is pitting people against each other, which is a problem because you can't compare arts. I feel like it's all completely subjective, and going, this thing is brilliant, but this thing is rubbish. It doesn't make sense. It will never make sense because it's all creative. It's all subjective. It's made by people who want to exploit those people, and the people making it don't really realize, because they're so bogged down with the idea of, if they don't do this thing, if they don't submit to a film festival or an industry, then they're a failure. And you look at them and they're like, oh, to just submit your film, it's just £50. And you're like, but if it's not like one of the big boys, if it's not your Cannes or your Toronto film festivals, if it's not one of those big ones that mean something, like they're prestigious, like everyone sort of aims to have a film there one day or like something like that, but they're just so hard to get into and so gate-kept by people that are already in the industry. It's very hard to break in unless you've got a connection or something like that. So it's a completely different ball game. But you get all these other ones that pop up and they're just meaningless. And you look at them, they're like first year running, and to enter it's like 50 quid. But people do it so then they can just have like a PNG sent to them saying, oh, you've been shortlisted. And then they put it on their thumbnail, and to them that's like a big win. And if that's you, then fair enough. If you if you get something from it, then cool. But like, to me, it's just a group of people rinsing people who genuinely want to be creative and just taking their money. That's what it is. But that's another story, and that's another complaint. I've just got off on one about film festivals. But yeah, I thought maybe I'll do another one of these in the future. And if you've got any questions you'd like to ask me, I'm not a very interesting person. So if you're thinking about making a film and watching me talking about making a film, I think you should go make a film. Go make a film. And I'll go make a film as well. And I'll upload it, so you haven't got to listen to this all the time. See you later.